So last time we had talked about the graphs, started talking about the graphs of sine and cosine functions, right? We talked about how to identify how to identify the four key features. The four key features of the graph of a sine or cosine function from looking at the equation. The four key features were midline, amplitude, period, and frequency. And we talked about how to describe the transformation of some sine or cosine function in terms of the parent function using the same list of criteria that you would have seen in your previous algebra 2, right? That was basically what we did last time. I'm going to start with an example of just the same thing we did last time that we'll work through together. I'll call on some people to help answer parts of it. And then we'll get on to the new stuff today, which will be going from the graph to an equation. Will be what we'll be doing today after this.
Are we still in the chapter 3.1?
Oh yeah, we're going to be there for like 3 or 4 lessons.
Yeah, which tab are you in right now?
The first
Oh,
one.
I got it. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, this is not gonna work. You do this one.
At first, I put in the wrong transformation. When we were looking at a graph for 30 minutes, so then we did like
Okay. So here's just an example. It's a gross example. What makes this so gross?
Because it's
Almost fractions.
It's got so many fractions.
Yeah, fractions, right? Yeah, is right. But if you can do this one with the fractions, we can handle whatever else might come along, right? Okay. So this is probably harder than what you'd see on your homework, but that's okay. To some extent, like, it's all the same, just the numbers get nastier, but the process remains the same. So the first step that we want to do is, or what I like to do, is I want to write that general form. Below. So that's the general form for my quadratic, or I'm sorry, my sinusoid. And from this, to do any of the parts above, we need to find the values for A, C, H, and K. That's step 1.
And then, I know it's kind of a dumb question, but this is all review from last class.
Correct. So we're just starting with an example from last class, because this class builds directly on that, so I don't want to go
Like, right into it.
unaddress what we did last time, get everybody's back on track that might have been, maybe didn't get through the homework yet, or hasn't looked at it hard, or looked at it and was like, I don't know, and threw their pencil in the air and turned on their TV.
Yeah, that was about it.
Nick.
Do you think you can switch to the black marker? This is kind of hard for.
Or just open up the computer.
Sure.
I was gonna ask, what tab is this under in like a window?
Chapter 3.1.
It's the first one.
The first one, like I'm off to the side somewhere. we're off into Never Never Land. But yes, Nick, I'll use black here from here on out, okay? All right. Hannah. The A and the K should be the first thing we try to identify. Can you give me either of A or K for this?
I think the A is 1 over C. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the bottom part. A is negative 1 over 2.
Great. Stop. That's perfect. So again, all that we're doing is we know the A is the coefficient. So we have that. Good?
You want to see the K?
Nope. Mary's going to do the K.
The K minus 5 over 4.
Great. Yup. Minus 5 over 4, or negative 5/4, however you want to say it. Good? Okay. Everybody else still on board, riding this train?
Very on board.
Okay. Now next we're going to be looking at the C. This is a little bit trickier. Madison, do you remember the rule for finding C from last time?
This is where I fall
Reciprocal of
H.
the coefficient on the x. So the reciprocal of 3/5 is 5/3.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Okay.
Would it be negative or no?
Not negative. Regular. The C is always the same sign as the coefficient. Everybody still on board?
I am on board.
Okay. Adriana, I think I asked you the same question last time. So, to get to the H, we need to look at the stuff on the inside of the parenthesis and make it look like the general form. What do we have to do to the stuff on the inside of that parenthesis to make it look like the general form? Starts with an F. The other one, factor, is what we need. So if I write above this, we have to factor off the 3/5, right? Whatever is the coefficient on the x, that's what gets factored out. Everybody good? Okay. So when I factor this out, how do I get the x? How do I take the 3/5 and turn it into an x? What mathematical operation happens? Starts with a D. Division, right? I take the 3/5 x and divide it by 3/5 gets me x. So how am I going to figure out what goes in this spot?
You're gonna
Divide. Good. What am I going to divide? Seven pi over 6 by 3 over 5. So I'm just going to kind of do that off to the side. Everybody's okay? That's the problem we need to do to figure out the number they'll write in that blank, right? Adriana, how do we divide two fractions? It's like a middle school or lower. Multiply by the reciprocal, yeah. So there's that, right? Yeah. And then how do we multiply fractions? No, that's a solving technique.
Oh, we're dividing. So
Don't we make like a denominator say?
That's for adding and subtracting.
Then just multiply across.
Just multiply straight across.
of course.
It works exactly the way you would want it to.
It is easy.
Everybody's okay?
Yeah, very good. I'm understanding.
I'm pretty.
Good, that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, we're.
I've been struggling with
Is that-
Calculus type of thing.
Okay, so, Nick, now that we factored this, good job, Adriana, it was a struggle bus. That's the hardest part, though, too, so it's okay. Nick, can we take what we have now and find the H?
Sure.
Okay, what is it?
Is it 35 I over 18?
You're very close. You're missing one little thing. Hannah.
Multiply by 0.5.
Oh, no. I thought you would have had it.
X plus?
Oh,
No, or negative 35.
That's it. It needs to be negative.
Oh,
So the rule for the H is it's always the opposite sign of what it looks like in your formula. Okay? The C is always the reciprocal on the coefficient. The H is always the opposite sign.
that is.
Okay? So far, so good? Now that we have these things, the A, C, H, and K, this is actually the hardest part. If we can get this from here on, it's just like plugging stuff into a formula or figuring out where it fits into a rule. The hardest part is now done. So we were asked for the amplitude, the midline, the period, and the frequency. Joe Lance,
Okay, I got this.
how do I calculate the amplitude?
The what?
The amplitude.
Isn't that, where's the, you do negative 2. No, you use minus 1/2, correct?
So the A value is related to the amplitude,
Yeah.
but we have to do something to it.
Does it relate to 2?
Nope.
Where's the chart at? Amplitude. 1.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't get this part. This is where I get lost.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you to walk me through this.
These are the formulas you need.
Okay.
Computer,
What does it say we do to find the amplitude?
what's that called?
Absolute.
Absolute value.
Absolute value of 1/2.
Well,
Minus 1/2.
yes. So the absolute value of minus 1/2 is just regular old 1/2. Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna use that one on my note card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a. If you got a good note card, this next test is usually pretty easy. If you don't, it gets a little hairy because there's a lot of stuff to remember. Annabelle, midline. Can you tell me how to find that?
Isn't it just what K would be? So would it be negative 5/4?
Okay. So you said negative 5/4, and I would not mark this completely correct on a test because I need y equals. Midline is an equation for a line. It's got to have the y equals part to it. It's not just a number, it's the equation for a horizontal line. So it has to be y equals. So again, if that's something that you're apt to forget, that's a good thing to put a reminder on your note card on, that midline is always starts y equals. It's easy to forget, not hard to do, but really easy to forget, right?
So the midline is K because that's just where the midline falls in the equation. So
Yeah, we kind of talked through where these things came from last time, but
yeah, I just forgot.
yeah, it's basically that if the K controls like the vertical shift.
Yeah.
So if like your midline was here and you shift the whole thing up, the midline moves with it.
And the K is control.
The K controls that. All right. Tessa, period. How do we do that?
Is it 2 pi absolute value of 5/3?
Excellent.
And then would it equal 10 pi over 3?
Excellent. So the period formula, she just read off the chart,
Oh, there it is.
2 pi absolute value C.
Yep.
We plugged in our C, took the absolute value, multiplied it across, and we're donezo.
This is making sense now.
Pretty easy once you have it, right?
Yeah.
Ian, frequency.
Reciprocal of period, so 3/10 pi.
Perfect. So again, frequency is just the reciprocal of the period. Flip it, be done with it. Don't use the formula. Just think about it as the reciprocal of the period. Easy peasy, in and out. That's what we're doing. So far, so good. So that's one set of answers. We're also asked to describe the transformation in words. To do that, we want, where did I write? There it is. We're going to use this list. Okay?
Whoa.
So again, you can memorize this or
Write down a note.
No card.
note card.
That's going on.
Yeah, that's on the note card.
Yeah, that's a lot of,
That's
it's
an no-brainer.
pretty intense looking, right? Like that's a lot of stuff. So Mark, our A value is -1/2.
Yeah.
So using this, what does that tell you happens to our graph?
There's a reflection across the x-axis. There's a vertical shrink by a factor of 1/2.
Perfect. And that's all we get from the A, right? Does everybody see how we got that?
Yeah.
Negative value gave us the reflection. Between -1 and +1 gives us the shrink. So we'll write that down. There we go.
It's like actually working from there.
Yes, Ian.
On a test, would you want us to make sure that we put like the equation like if A is less than
I'm writing this
Okay.
for you guys so you know why I drew that conclusion.
Okay.
On the test, if you just had, on the test for a question like this, it'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there's 6 things that can happen. If you just wrote down the description,
Across the x-axis.
that would be sufficient. If you included this, still right. Not wrong.
Got it.
But not, I wouldn't mark you down for not including it. Because above it, you would have been asked for the A value. So like, I don't know that you need to, I'm writing this for you guys.
Okay.
So when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's why he said that, is because the A is negative. Okay,
This makes so much sense.
Ellie,
Control.
let's go back to our list. The C is next. So our C was 3/5, right? So looking at our C's, Ellie, what does the C of 3/5 tell us?
Where's the reflection across the y-axis?
Well, 3/5 is greater than 0, right?
There's no reflection.
So there's no reflection, good, and
There's a horizontal
horizontal shrink, because 3/5 is between -1 and +1 by a factor of 3/5, right? Everybody's good? Again, 3/5, if you're like, is that between, type in your calculator, it's 0.6, right? So if the fractions is throwing you, just turn into a decimal and be like, oh yeah, that decimal's less than 1. Great, no problem. All right, where were we at here? Oh, our C is 5/3. I had it reversed. was 5/3.
That's it.
So
Also, it's bigger than 1.
C is bigger than 1, so it's not a shrink, it's a stretch. Maybe you're right there when you said, Ellie, did you say stretch the first time? No, you said you had the reflection.
Yeah,
That's what,
I said sure.
okay. No problem. We said it was 3/5 before I remembered wrong.
Okay, we're still good.
I'm trying anyways, right? All right, Jacob, what does the H give us?
Oh,
So if I go back to my list here, or I guess we do the K next. The K is the next on the list.
okay, for K,
Yeah,
we do, it shifts down, minus 5/4.
well, just 5/4 of a unit.
When I just say 5 numbers.
Yeah, you don't do the negatives when we talk
we're
about,
going down.
yeah, right, exactly right, yes.
Got it.
And then Maximus, what does the H give us?
Does that give you,
That's the value for H.
going to do negative?
So if we look at our list,
So since it's big, we're gonna be H.
well, it's negative though, right?
Oh, so it's. Shift that. Correct. Well, I thought when we did it, the negative went on, or no?
So when we took it from the equation, it was like something plus 35 pi over 18. From the equation to the H is negative. It's the opposite sign of what it looks like in the equation. So the H is negative 35 pi over 18. Since the H is less than 0, we're going left. So it only changes sign when you're pulling it from the equation to the value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So again,
When we answer a problem like this, would you like us to put them in number order as well?
I will give you a list, like with 6 blanks,
Oh, okay,
for you to write in.
Okay.
So there's always 6 of them. Even if nothing happens, you can just like leave that one blank. Like if C only does one thing instead of 2 things.
And then for the answer, you would like to receive the written version and the version before that, correct? Like the A, C, H, K, just part?
So this question asks for this, and then this.
Mm-hmm.
Your work would be the list of those
We already
values.
have it all.
Yeah. So listing those values is like your work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Once you have that, everything's just like plugging it in or looking at it, what the number says.
Alright, sweet.
Does that feel okay for everybody? Yeah?
Yeah.
Better doing it, taking a second pass at it, looking at it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that every time.
Sure.
And it just makes like sticking your brain.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, we'll do better, right? All right. What we're gonna do next is we want to talk about how we go from from graph back to an equation. Okay? So we want to go from graph back to an equation. So this is our graph in an example. We want to either write an equation for sine or cosine, right? Everybody's good?
That makes sense.
Okay, so our goal is going to be figuring out the values for A, C, H, and K from the graph. Once we have those values, we can just plug them into the formula, and we're done. Sound okay?
Yeah, how do we figure out if it's sine or cosine?
So it turns out that if you're given a graph, you can always write either one. So the instructions might ask for one or the other or both,
It's just like, yeah, two different ways to do it.
but there's actually infinitely many ways to answer this question correctly.
Okay.
We'll talk about why in a moment.
Yeah.
But it truly doesn't matter which one you choose in this context. And when we talk about giving you just some of the information from the graph,
Yeah.
again, it won't matter, but there's usually an easier way with one versus the other, and then we'll talk in good detail about which one you want to choose,
Okay.
because it makes your life easier, and I'm all about making my life easier.
Yeah. And then one more question, for the key features where it says PF and RF, what is PF and RF?
Parent function,
And then
result function.
Perfect.
Okay. So the way that we're gonna start, whether we're doing a sine or a cosine, the first three things we find, it's identical, it doesn't matter which one you do. Okay? First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the graph and find the midline. We're just gonna use our eyes to do that, because what does the midline do? It divides the graph in half, right? So half of the graph is above the midline and half is below. So it's a horizontal line. If we look at it, it looks to me like the midline is here. Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
So if I look at that, that is the line y equals 1, because it passes through the y coordinate of 1. Everybody's good? And what does that tell me? What's the equation for the midline? Y equals K, right? Y equals K. So what does the K in this case have to be? 1, right? If Y equals K and Y equals 1, then K is 1. Everybody's good?
Yeah, why don't we use the parent function there?
So the parent function is like the non-transformed version. The parent function is just literally y equals sine x.
Oh, okay.
So if like k was 0, and h was 0, and c was 1, and a was 1, then we'd have just the parent function.
Okay, perfect.
But I'm looking at this and going, this isn't what we graphed when we just graphed sine x.
Yeah.
So I'm positive it's been transformed somehow.
Yeah.
You good? Okay. 1 down, right? 3 to go. We need 4 things, A, C, H, and K. We got 1. The next thing we would want to find is the amplitude. What is the amplitude again?
It would be
Absolute value is
Well, how,
no.
on the graph, how do we find it on the
the
graph?
highest peak one best form of depth.
Great, so it's a higher low value to the midline, right? So for example, that's the amplitude, right? And Joe's correct, we would just count up, so like going from 1 to 4 is 3. And the formula to find the amplitude was the absolute value of A. So what this tells me then is that A has to be either positive or negative 3. We'll figure out which one we want to use depending on some choices we make later. It's possible to write a correct answer that uses either plus or minus, but it has to match up some other parts later, so we'll wait to make that decision. Everybody's good? Okay. The next thing we're going to find is the period. Remember, the period is the longest non-repeating segment. In a situation like this, I'm probably just going to go from like high point to high point, or low point to low point. So like this is 1 period. just peak to peak. So if I look at that length, I started at 0.25 pi, and I ended at 1.25 pi. How far did I go? 1 pi. Is everybody okay with how I did that? And what's the formula for the period? It's that my period is equal to 2 pi absolute value c, right? So in this case, my period was pi, so I have pi equals 2 pi times the absolute value c. To solve for c, what should I do? What operation is going on between the c and the 2 pi?
Divide by 2 pi.
Multiplication. So I'd want to divide by 2 pi. So when I take pi divided by 2 pi, the pi's cancel, I'm left with 1/2, right? And if I want just c then, the absolute value of c is positive 1/2, so c has to be plus or minus. Everybody's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is the period always going to equal pi?
No. The period we have to read from the graph on how long it is. You'll probably see a period of pi quite frequently because I don't want the numbers to be like super gross.
Yeah.
So that'll be a common period to see, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Everybody?
For the part where it's like pi over 2 pi and then 2 pi over 2 pi,
So
did you multiply those is what I was going to ask.
So this is the equation, period is equal to 2 pi absolute value c. And then to solve the equation, for c, we divide both sides by 2 pi.
Okay.
So you're looking at like a step. Nick, I know I told you I wasn't going to use red. I had to use red there to show that like a difference between like what we started with and then like a step in solving.
Yeah.
Joe, you happy?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So this part that we just did is the exact same regardless of whether you did sine or cosine. This first 3 steps where we find plus or minus a, plus or minus c, and k, always the same. What we do afterwards is going to depend on whether we're writing an answer for a sine equation or for a cosine equation. So the way we find our h, and then how we pick whether we want positives or negatives, that'll depend on which one we're doing. Everybody good? Well, I should add one more step. Whoa, you okay? All right. Doors are hard, guys. So you can write an answer with a negative c in it. We're never going to do that. We're always just going to choose the c to be positive. We'll pick up the negative sign somewhere else. So we're always just going to use positive c's. It just makes our life simpler. It's never going to make the problem easier to do a negative c, so we're just not going to do it.
So is this gonna be like a problem, like how, like what is the period or like?
Well, the problem you'll see in tonight's
Okay.
homework is you have a picture
Okay.
and you have to write the equation.
Okay.
Last night's homework included like, here's an equation, like what's the period and frequency
Okay.
and like what's the transformation, and like we just did at this time.
Okay.
Is everybody good? Okay. All right. So now, let's say we're going to do the sine. So I'm going to pick another dark color that should be reasonable to see from the back. So I'm going to do blue for sine. Is that okay?
Yep.
And I thought I picked the darker of the blues. There. That should still be seeable, right?
Yeah.
Good? Nick, you're okay with dark blue? I want to make sure you can see. Like, that's an issue, right? And totally...
Oh, you do?
Okay.
Oh.
So, what we're left to do for sine, we have to figure out what is h, and whether the A value needs to be positive or negative. Those are the two things left we need to figure out. Everybody agree? So what I'm going to use to find my H is going to be a midline point. So that's a place where the graph crosses the midline. So we have lots of choices to use here. And because the graph goes forever in both directions and like the pattern continues, we have infinitely many midline points we could use, right? Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Now, if you look closely, there's actually two different types of midline points here. So if I read the graph from left to right, there's midline points where the graph is kind of going down through the midline point. And there's midline points where the graph is coming back up through the midline point. Everybody good? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of these midline points to use. Does it matter which one I choose? No. What is Mr. Kulik going to choose? If I get the chance where an x-coordinate is 0, that's the midline point I'm going to choose. I do have that option here. That's the point 0, 1. So that's my midline point. MLP I'm going to abbreviate as midline point. Everybody's good? If I'm choosing a midline point, the H is always just going to be the x-coordinate. Done. The type of midline point, is this a going up or going down midline point? This is a going up one, right? If I read from left to right, it's going up. That part tells me that the A needs to be positive. If it's a going down midline point, it means that the A is negative. So now I have everything I need, right? I have my A, which is positive 3. I have my C, which is positive 1/2. So I have 1 over 1/2. I have my H, which is 0. And I have my K, which was 1. That's an answer. Now, if the directions ask you to fully simplify things, you'd have to continue going and like worry about the stuff inside the parentheses, which we could do. Nick?
So, like you said, it doesn't matter if you use the A sign or the A cosine?
Right, we'll do the cosine one here in a second with a different color, because the procedure for finding your H is a little bit different. So we will do that in just a second. So 1 over 1/2 is just 2. And then x minus 0 is just x. So it could simplify down to that. If the directions ask for a fully simplified equation, that's all you need to do. So far, so good? Okay. I'm going to do the cosine in green. So again, we're starting out with the point. We have A is plus or minus 3. C is 1/2. We discard the negative option every single time. K is 1. For cosine, we need to find the sign on A and the value for H. We're going to do it in a similar fashion, but we're not going to use midline points for cosine. We're going to use mins and maxes. So again, I can choose any min or max to use. I have infinitely many of them. Does it matter which one I choose? Nope. What's the way Mr. Kulik's going to choose? I'm going to choose the one with the smallest x value that's greater than or equal to 0. So if I can pick a 0x, I would do that. I don't have that option. None of my mins or maxes are at x equals 0. So I'm going to pick this one here that is the smallest, or the one that's closest to 0 that's still positive. Because I don't want to mess with the extra negative signs. That's the only reason. Is everybody okay? So now I'm going to figure out what this point is. really easy to see the y-coordinate is 4, right? If I read down, the x-coordinate is here, 0.25 pi. Remember, 0.25 is the fraction 1 over 4. 1 over 4 times pi is just pi over 4. So I'm going to write that in terms of a pi. Just like, for the sine, the x-coordinate gives me my value for h. And because this is a maximum, that tells me the a is positive. If I had chosen a minimum, what would that tell me? The a is negative, right? Very intuitive, right? The going up, midline points are positive a's, going down are negative a's, that makes sense. For cosine, the maxes give me positive a's, the mins give me negative a's.
So why is your x value not 0.25 pi?
I just chose to write it in a standard way.
And could you leave it in 0.25 pi form?
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong
Alright.
to do that. I mean, if you're checking answers, it's not going to look like that. But it's not wrong to do it. So now I just plug everything in that I found. And if it asks me to simplify my answer, 1 over 1/2 is 2. When I distribute the 2 through, I get 2x. And then 2 times pi over 2 is just pi.
So, what I'm confused by is how it's pi over 4.
What is 0.25 as a fraction?
0.25 as a fraction is 1 over 4.
And if you multiply 1 over 4 times pi,
It's pi over,
pi over 4.
and then the blue one is like the blue.
The blue stuff was for sine,
Sine.
and the green stuff was for cosine. I tried to color code it so we
Yeah, no,
like we're doing 2 things in one problem, it helps.
Oh yeah, I just had to double check.
Yep, no problem. All right. Yes, sir.
So just recapping, the sine is for the midpoint or the midline mostly, and then the cosine is for the minimums and the maximums.
Correct. Yeah, go ahead. All right, let's do another example, yes? That was a lot, right? None of the steps individually were particularly difficult, but there's a lot of different things we had to find, right?
So for cos, it's just the same. The only difference is that a is just, or like the minimum is positive.
So for cosine, if the point I chose to find the h was a minimum, then the a would be negative. So I'd have a different h because it would correspond to this point. So it'd be like 3 pi over 4, and the a would be negative. But that would also be a correct answer. So it doesn't matter which point you choose, right? Which min or max you choose, your a is going to change accordingly. So min's positive a, or I'm sorry, min's negative a, max is positive a, and the h is just the x-coordinate from the point you choose. Is that okay? And the same thing for sines, right? The h is just the x-coordinate from the midline point you use, and whether it's an up midline point or a down midline point will dictate whether the a is positive or negative. All right. Don't do that. Okay. Here's another one, right? Same idea. We're doing the same thing. What do we start with? What do we start by finding? Net. Excellent. The midline. If we look here, it looks like to me the midline is like right here. Do you guys buy that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we get that midline is y equals 1, so it tells me k is 1 once again. What do I find next?
Amplitude.
Amplitude, great. How do I find that?
Find the distance from the midline to the peak.
Yep, so the distance from the midline to some min or max. So if I look here, I'm going from 1 to -1, it looks like. So that distance is?
-2.
Well, the distance is 2 for the amplitude, right? Because it's a length that's always a positive number. But the A could then be plus or minus 2. Does that feel okay? You guys, everybody on board?
Yeah.
Doing okay? Stop me if it's too fast or you don't get it. Just feel, trying to make sure we're all kind of going in the same direction, going forward at the same rate. I haven't left anybody too far behind. I mean, if you've been gone for a while, like, that's understandable. Like, you got some catching up to do, but if we follow what we're doing okay today, we'll figure it out. So yes, so far? Okay. So let's now do the period. So I like to go from like peak to peak or valley to valley, just because it's real easy to see, right? That's one period there.
Then go to restroom.
So if I look at that, I'm going from -pi to 3pi. How far have I gone? 4pi distance. Is everybody good with that? So then I'm going to say, okay, let's solve for c. So 4pi is my period. That equals 2pi absolute value c. What do I need to do there to solve for c?
Divide by 2pi.
Divide by 2pi, right? Is everybody okay with seeing that 4pi divided by 2pi is going to be 2? Okay. And so that tells me the c is plus or minus 2. But what do we do with that c? We never use the negative version of it. We can always just make it positive. We'll pick, if it needed to be negative, we can pick that negative up somewhere else with either the h or the a part. We never have to make the c negative, so we're just not going to do it. Everybody good? Okay. So those parts is the same, whether we did sine or cosine. So I did that in black. Let's do the sine part now. I'm going to change color to blue as my sine color. So to do finish the sine, I need a h, and I need to figure out whether the a is positive or negative. What do I do to do that? I choose a midline point. Does it matter which one I choose? No. Which one would I choose if I'm Mr. Kulik? Nick?
0.
Yeah, this one right here. That's the point 0, 1. That's the midline point I'm choosing. So that tells me the h is
The h is 0.
is the 0. Always the x coordinate. Is this a up or down midline point? This is a down, right? If we read it from left to right, it's going down. What does that tell me? The a is negative. And I'm done, right? I just need to fill things in. And if I wanted to, I could simplify this down. And there we go. You guys got that? Sure. Everybody happy there? So you see, like when you got it, this doesn't take that long, right? I mean, it's not nothing, Mr. Kulik, but like, if you got it, there's not I'm not, I wrote down a little bit of stuff, but mostly it's notes to myself about what stuff is, right? Okay, let's do cosine now. Again, the directions might ask for one or the other or both. Unless the directions ask for both, you don't have to do both. If it just asks for a equation of a sinusoid, take your pick, whichever one you want to do. If it asks for sine, you do the sine one. If it asks for cosine, do the cosine one. If it asks for both, give them both. So the directions will tell you what you need to do. We're doing both just for practice. All right. So we still have k is 1, c is 2, and a is plus or minus 2. We need to find the h and the sign for a. What do we choose to do that? What do we need to choose in order to fix a value for h and a sign for a? We need to choose either a maximum or minimum to use. Does it matter which one I choose? No. Which one did Mr. Kulik choose? I would pick this one down here. That's the closest positive value or non-negative value to the y-axis, right? Does it matter though? No, you could use any one you want. If I look at this point, the x-coordinate is pi and the y-coordinate is -1. So that tells me the h value is pi. Correct, because it's the x-coordinate from the point that I chose. What type of point is this? Is this a max or a min?
Minimum.
Min, and what does that tell me?
Negative.
It tells me that a is negative. So that's everything we need. And if I wanted to simplify this, I just have to distribute the 1/2 through. And I'd be done. How do you guys feel?
Good.
It's all right?
Yep.
All right. So your assignment, we're stopping here. I'm not doing anything else. Take the 20 minutes or whatever that's left here to work. So you guys should be able to do 7 and 8. From the problem set. And then I think it's this one, worksheet 5. So I think there's 4 questions on worksheet 5, or 4 graphs anyways. I think they ask for sine and cosine for each of them. But it's like 6 questions, right? What's due on Sunday? 1 through 4. That's it. This stuff, when's this going to be due? The following Sunday, because I always want to leave a day for questions or whatever, or class day for questions or whatever if they come up before anything is due. So if you have issues and you need to come talk to me, you have time to do that. Everybody cool as to what's due when?
Yeah, makes sense.
Light week. Why was it a light week? You had the test, right? So there's not a lot of homework left to do. If you still had stuff missing from last problem set, like if you had homework problems or the review or Delta Maths, Sunday is your last day to get that in. Send me an email before it starts becoming late and you lose points on stuff.
We do email you information.
Yeah, send me an email. I don't know to go back and check if you don't send me something. So that's the only way I get notified if something changes. If you notify me that like, hey, I turned in 43 through 60. Can you please check it? Now I will, when I do it, I'll send you back a thumbs up. That just lets you know that I saw what you're telling me to look for and everything was fine. If it wasn't fine, if I still couldn't see it or whatever, I'd respond to you and let you know that like, hey, still can't see it. Did you sync your notebook or, something else? Everybody happy?
Yep.
Okay. This went okay today though? Yeah. This feels okay?
Yeah, I like this.
Okay. This becomes, the course starts feeling a little bit more like a math course that you're familiar with.
Yeah, it's making a lot more sense now.
And again, that's not atypical, that at the start, things feel really kind of overwhelming and a little confusing, and while you're getting your feet settled on like a new idea, because it's not like Algebra 2 where it's like, we're just doing algebra more,
Yeah.
on stuff that, just like new stuff we're not familiar with, but it's like, we're doing all the same kinds of things, like simplifying expressions and solving for x, and graphing lines,
I put my water.
you know, here we're doing like types of problems that you're not used to doing at all. So it's gonna feel different and overwhelming and like confusing at the start, and it should as it goes on, even though we're doing more difficult things, feel easier just because you're more, you know, grounded in what we're doing.
Are you going to the phone?
Yes, sir.
I kind of won't.